everyone, and welcome to the Team Nova versus Team Aretuza Showmatch tournament. Bienvenido a la Showmatch entre Team Nova y Team Aretuza. My name is Apero. I'll be one of your casters today. Joining me today is LB Dutchboy. How are you today, Dutchboy?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Apero?
Oh, I'm very well. Thank you for asking. So before we begin, I think it's important that we talk a little bit about how today is going to work. So, Dutchboy, do you want to just talk us through what the format is? How is today working?
Sure. Today, Team Aretuza and Team Nova are clashing in a big show match. There's going to be 5 matches, seeing as there are 10 different people out there right now. And they're all going to be playing best of 3 matches against each other with one ban, conquest format, and it's going to be great, Gwent.
That's right, exactly right. And of course, whoever wins the most games out of those 5 games is the victorious team. Ha 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 ha. So we will see how that goes. Firstly, some of you might be wondering, who are these guys? Who are these teams? What are they all about? Let me tell you a little bit about Team Nova. Team Nova is a Spanish team. They were founded out of a Discord community, actually, the Gwent Español Discord community. They currently have 8 players on their roster, and they're continuing to develop on the ladder in tournaments and, of course, in the field of high-quality content creation. Most of you should be familiar by now with the Team Aretuza meta snapshot that is done always in collaboration with Team Nova. So this is the kind of stuff that they are working on, and yeah, we're thrilled to have them here today. And of course, Team Aretuza, Dutchboy, who are Team Aretuza? I have no idea.
Me neither, actually. So Team Aretuza is on the other side today, and they are a competitive Gwent team founded in summer 2017. And they specialize in high-quality in-depth guides, analysis, and also content. We can be find on the website right now. Team Aretuza is also focusing on getting people into pro ladder and getting them on as high finishes as possible.
Yeah.
Which they are succeeding right now with the Marcus and Andy Wand getting those top finishes and also doing well in the tournaments.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of Andy Wand, he is one of our competitors today. We have 10 competitors, 5 from each team. Our first matchup is going to be Jose Luis JK with Malaysian. Then we will have Mike to come versus Guardia, Winday versus Mr. Max, Edroba versus Gwent Town, and last but certainly not least, Jamedi versus Andy Wand. Andy Wand did win the most recent Gwent Open. That was Gwent Open number 5. So congratulations to him, and I am sure we can expect some high-level gameplay. Let's jump straight into our first matchup. Here we are. So we have here Jose Luis JK versus Malaysian. Jose Luis is a 22-year-old web developer and designer. When we asked him a little bit about his likes and dislikes, he said he loves philosophy, comedy, and art. And this is my favorite bit, though. When we asked him what his favorite deck was, he said, "Dwarves in your face." So that was his answer. And what about Malaysian, also known as the Genes or Gene in the Team Aretuza world? LB Dutchboy, tell us about him.
So Malaysian is a 21-year-old law student from Krakow. He lives in Poland right now, and he's also used to be playing some games on higher level. Before Gwent, he's also played some League of Legends and Hearthstone, and has done recently or pretty good in those games as well. And his goal in Gwent right now is, of course, becoming the World Master in January 2019.
Yes, a very lofty goal, but I'm sure if anyone can do it, he can. Yeah, and speaking of the fact that he's from Poland, we do have a little fun twist, let's say, on the first game that we're going to see today. Now, the first game we're going to see today, I don't know if it was a miscommunication or he maybe just forgot, but it was recorded in Polish, basically, is the short version. So if you've only ever heard Gwent in English, today's your lucky day. We've got a little treat for you. All of the card lines, voice lines, are going to be in Polish. So, with that said, Dutchboy, are you ready to get this game started?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we are starting here with a Radovid versus Emir matchup. So Jose Luis bringing Radovid and Malaysian bringing Emir. What's your first thought about this matchup, Dutchboy?
So whenever you see the NG hand buff, you first have to question, will they get the combo off? Looking right now, he has the Mandrake, the reveal, but he's still lacking the big base strength target to get those buffs on. He does have an Asire, but using Asire on, or using the Mandrake on Asire and getting your combo off on that never feels good. On the other side, we have...
Ooh, there it is, though.
Oh, he actually did find
there
it.
There he is, and he did put the Mandrake back as well, which means his Vesemir is now going to be able to pull that Mandrake, and by the looks of it, Roach too. So it's... I think he's got the combo. What do you think?
It's looking pretty good, even though he has 4 gold cards, including a Royal Decree, which is sometimes a little bit awkward.
Well, yeah, just a little bit, but we've all been there. And it looks like he's also lost coin. To my mind, that's probably the only way Jose Luis really has a chance in this matchup. I would say in this scenario, I'm not seeing a lot of ways that, for example, Radovid gets value here.
He doesn't really have any good lock targets or stuff that would do anything at the very least with locks. So it will just be a 14-point there, which is nothing too great.
Yeah, exactly. Alright. We do see the combo being pulled off here, of course. Vesemir bringing the Mandrake onto the Knight, putting it back into the hand. For those who don't know Emir hand buff, the idea is basically you strengthen a unit, bring it back into your hand, reveal it, and then use spotters and a combination of Wyvern shields to continue to boost other units, and basically just drop huge point value bronzes after huge point value bronzes after huge point value bronzes. It can get pretty intense.
30 Nova every turn is pretty good.
Exactly. And so here it looks like as well we might not have gotten the video recordings from Jose Luis. For those who might be wondering, these are pre-recorded games, and normally we have both hands. It looks like if we didn't get those files, we obviously can't show those hands. So here we're only really playing from Malaysian's perspective. I'm not sure, to be honest, as I'm trying to maintain a little bit of secrecy. I don't know whether it's the same for the rest of this matchup between Malaysian and Jose Luis, but I do know that for our other matchups we will be able to see both hands, just for those who might be wondering and or confused as to what is going on right now. Alright, so we do see the first of the shields coming out, dropping it up there on the melee row.
And those big 20-point plays are gonna start coming down now. It'll be hard for Just Lucy to keep up with this, since most decks are just not able to generate this amount of tempo.
Absolutely, and Malaysian also, of course, having lost the coin, needs to really stay ahead there. Ooh, we do see another Knight Elect come out. I feel like they've changed names so many times, I always get mixed up. I keep going to call it Aspirant, but not Aspirant anymore. Alright, and he's dropping it onto Emir himself as well. So here, 29-point lead. It's a strong lead. And again, really, Jose Luis just has to be thankful at this point that he won coin. What do you think, Dutch Boy?
I think it is very important. Something to look out for is whether or not Jose Luis can get that card advantage into the last round. Card for card, he is not going to be able to trade evenly points-wise, so he needs that extra card into the last round to come close to even a winning game for him.
Absolutely, and he doesn't know. He doesn't know that Malaysian has that Royal Decree in his hand, and of course, therefore, Malaysian I think is gonna try to hold on to that Triss and try to hold on to that Royal Decree and get her back in the deck as well. But the question is Jose Luis going to give up this round, or is he going to keep pushing? Could get a bit sticky for Malaysian if he does keep pushing here, but Malaysian could also, I suppose, see an opportunity to go 2 cards up into round 2.
It's pretty hard to keep on playing for Malaysian right here. Jose Luis is getting 4 points per turn, and that's not something he's going to get later on, so he does decide to pass.
Yeah. So if we could see Jose Luis's hand, I'm sure we would be able to know whether he can catch up at this point. He is getting, as you mentioned, 4 points per turn, so he does need 17, if I'm not mistaken, to overtake here. I'm trying to think what he could have that could drop down here to give him that.
17 is pretty hard to make for a red of it. Looking at his deck list, he might be able to get something going with Seltkirk, but even for Seltkirk, he doesn't have anything great. Ooh, and he's not able to make it. That is so expensive.
man. I was thinking about that, whether the Vincent would be enough, but yeah, unfortunately it's not, but he will go 2 cards down in this round. There it is.
Does take the round though, so he
Yeah.
might be able to put Malaysian in an awkward position where he does have to drop the knight if he is able to generate a lot of tempo.
And here, yeah, okay. All right, well, nothing devastating for Malaysian, so I think Triss is going to find a way back into his deck right now. There she goes.
Oh,
Draws into the shield. That said, he doesn't have any other... he doesn't have any other Magne Divisions in his hand, so I suppose, you know, if nothing else, he has got a bit of access right now to some of that, to that 18-point knight.
yeah. And he also does have the Sire, so worst case, if he does have to use the shield this round, he still can save his last Magne Division with a Sire and by putting a shield back into his deck.
Okay. Well, and Jose Luis elects for the dry pass, just trying to get a card out of Malaysian, but that's perfect for Malaysians to just drop that down and mess up Jose Luis's deck a little bit there. So we know what Jose Luis is drawing. Yeah, exactly. That was great for him. All right, do we see the shield go now? Perhaps we could draw into.
It is a bit risky.
If he does it.
Yes, it is risky to mulligan it. So at this point, Malaysian is thinking, do I need to mulligan here? Do I already have enough points? Do I need to take the risk? He does decide to take the risk though and is not getting punished for it, so he's looking pretty good.
Yeah, we do note he has 2 spotters left in his deck, so I guess that's what he's going to be hoping to pull here. The Knight, the Alchemist, the Magne Division, none of those are particularly useful to him, so that's what he's going to be fishing for with those recons, I imagine. Though he might drop another shield back into his deck. Does he have another shield in his graveyard? I think he does. And if he does, then he's gonna, I guess, use a Seer to drop that back in. Is he...
Ooh, I was hoping to see this. He knows that Jose Luis has already played his infantries, so putting one of the infantries back would mean that his Dijkstra might get a 3-point card, which is something Jose Luis does not want to see, and he does put it back.
And we were both right. Yeah, the Wyvern Scale shield goes back in, and the infantryman. So this is gonna be interesting. And Jose
Dijkstra's
Luis
gonna take the wheel.
He's thinking about it.
If he has even drawn it.
What was that, sir?
If he has even drawn the Dijkstra.
Ah, yes.
Jose Luis has not thinned as much as he would have liked. He is playing the infantry just for thinning, combined with the commando, which is pretty decent thinning all around. He also has marching orders, ADC. His deck is made to be thinning. So just to make that final Dijkstra good point play and knowing what you're gonna get from that Dijkstra.
Absolutely. Okay, he's thinking about it now. They've got a 20. See, this is the danger of Amir right here. There's this hand buff unit. He's 26 points ahead, and we're only 2 cards into the round, so this is quite a way to get started. We do see Deathmold coming out, and he's just going for a vanilla Alzur's Thunder, just going for that 9-point hit. It's gonna be. I wish we could see what was in Jose Luis's hand right now. I feel like he's buying his time for something, but I'm not sure quite what just yet.
We might be able to get a read off. He might have cards like Seltkirk, Dijkstra. I get the feeling that he must have something good in his hand, otherwise he wouldn't have gone for the pass. If he would have had a super bad hand and many bricks, he should have probably played and get rid of those bad cards and trade them for good cards from Legion. So I'm still hoping that he's able to put out some work with Dijkstra, Seltkirk.
Yeah, it's looking sticky, but there is the Dijkstra. Do we see the oh, there it is! But he also pulls a Stennis. Oh, and which draws a Margarita, which in turn removes that 18-point boost from the spotter. That's not a bad draw. The Temerian, okay, maybe not so much, but that Margarita was needed. In comes another shield. Oh, he's thinking about it. Yeah, so he was considering there, do I go for the recon and get the extra 3 points from the Magne Division? And he decided not to be greedy there.
And I like that. He's in such a dominant spot that he doesn't need those extra 3 points.
Yeah, and Jose Luis knows it. He opts for the pass and gives that game to Malaysian. So Malaysian is 1-0 up. Okay, so great first game. Really, as we said, I think that would have been even more destructive if Jose Luis had not won coin there. So really glad to see that. Him at least in with a fighting chance, although that Asia did really get to him. What do you think?
I think that the most important thing that matchup was the pass from Malaysian. Being able to pass on exactly the right time and making Jose Luis go down -2 was basically giving up or making sure his only lose condition was out of the way. He was not going to go down a card into the last round. At best, he was even going to go up a card, so he was in a dominant spot to win the set.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. All right, well, let's hop straight into game 2, and yeah, let's see if we can see what happens next. Here we go. All right, we are seeing Calvate this time with Bruva. Okay. Bruva, of course, no longer having access, undeniable access to the spy with the changes that came with the May update. But looks like Malaysian doesn't need it because he found the spy anyway. He is highlighting that he's got the 2 Blue Mountain Commandos, Blue Mountain Elites. In his hand, so that kind of denies him a little bit of early thinning there. Jose Luis playing Calvate. I guess we'll see what type of Calvate he's running. If I had to hazard a guess, I would say Alchemy. I guess we're going to find out soon. What's your thought about this? The Dwarf deck, there's a lot of questions going on about whether it's going to be as powerful now. What do you think the thinking is to bring the Dwarf deck at this point?
I think that the Dwarf list is not really certain whether it's a good deck or not. I feel like good amount of the people think it's a good deck just because they remember playing the old Dwarves, remember those insane stats plays, and want to go back to that time with this deck. But I don't think the deck is able to go above tier 2 at any time soon.
Okay, well, I guess we're gonna find out here what Malaysian can do with the deck. All right. So here's Dwarven Agitator does find the Markham. I want to say defenders. I get all the Markham names mixed up. Volunteers. Thank you.
Yes.
Does manage to pull, spawn an extra volunteer, which of course draws the other 3 out of his deck. That's what you're hoping for early game with a Dwarven Agitator. So Malaysian must be happy about that.
Solid thinning, solid points. He's not falling behind like the Blue Mountain Elites, which are only 9-point tempo. This is a 13-point tempo play, which is perfectly fine to start off with, and thinning their deck for 3 cards, actually.
That's right. And yeah, I guess because he didn't have access to those Blue Mountain Elites, he also really needed that. Otherwise, his draws going into rounds 2 and 3, I think, would have been a little bit messy. But he did lose coin again by the looks of it, and that's rough. Of course, in tournament setting, in official CDPR tournament settings, they are able to control the coin flip. We do not have that advantage, so for us it's just a matter of see who gets it. Oh, and the muzzle comes out to deny the engine, bringing the Alba Cavalry all the way over to Malaysian's side of the board. That could be something special. If only it had been down before the volunteers, right?
It still is devastating though, and
Yes.
he's immediately leaving, seeing that happen. Not only does it deny a 20-point unit for your opponent, it also creates a big unit for your own. With the potential of having Blue Mountain Elites, Agitators, you're throwing out multiple units per turn, making that unit grow even more.
Absolutely. Malaysian does not draw into another Blue Mountain Elite, so he does put one back into the deck. Of course, so he can now do that thinning in this round. Yep, and that's his first move by the looks of it. There they are.
Some more solid thinning, which is good, so he can find all his gold cards. He's currently only having 1, so he's not too happy going in next round quite yet. Also, knowing that he is playing against soldiers, he wants to keep the last round as short as possible with as good of a cards he can possibly get.
Exactly right. So, lots of beginner players often ask about, why have just 25 cards in your deck? But this is part of the reason why. The more cards you can get out of your deck with thinning, the higher the probability that you can draw your gold cards, the higher the chance that in round 3, you are going to have your power plays available to you. So that's part of what Malaysian's thinking here. He's drawing stuff out of his deck, he's trying to thin, but of course, he's also dropping a lot of tempo into this round. Really trying to get an extra card out of Jose Luis, or just really push to get the power out of Jose Luis's deck. And this is not a standard deck that we are seeing from Jose Luis here. This is a soldier's deck. Are we expecting to see some slave infantry or similar? What's he going for here?
I imagine there's going to be slave infantry, but currently he's just setting up his points per turn, the stuff that makes the slave infantry actually so great and not just a mere 9 stats.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel like he's good in a short round? Because my feeling here is that Malaysian is pushing to either go for the 2-0 or to really get a short round out of Jose Luis at the end there. He has got Hattori, which can offer him a big power play in round 3. He's also got Shiro in his hand. What's Malaysian's goal here? What's he trying to achieve?
I think that he's trying to get those point per turn cards out, those cavalry, the stuff that just keeps on boosting everything else that is really scary. Maybe seeing some soldiers, because he's expecting to find some soldiers in the future right now. Oh wow!
Yeah, we see that was amazing. So we did see Jose Luis steal the Blue Mountain Elite across, which also gave him an extra soldier on the board, allowing him to proc a few different engines there. Malaysian was hovering over well played, but decided to go for damn it instead, so a little bit of friendly BM as well. But hopefully Jose Luis knows now that he was going to say well played, because it was indeed. So that was a huge swing, because we now see that Malaysian 2 cards down and under by 1 point as well. So, gosh, what do you do here as Malaysian? You just have to keep pushing, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of tempo Jose Luis was just throwing out was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
He was so far behind, and then he started playing his leader, getting those dandelions out, getting the framed into a good roll, and suddenly you're just down 20 points, and what can you do?
Incredible. And I mean, really, yeah. I mean, I don't think Malaysian has much of a choice but to go all in on this round, does he? Otherwise, he's gonna have to go into round 3 down a card.
He might be able. The only way I'm seeing him coming back right now into this round is Shiru. He might be able to set something up or get such a great Shiru that Jose Luis is not playing around and get his card back, but without him falling for something, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, it's true. He does have the Dwarven Skirmisher and the Decoy, so I suppose he could technically have a bit of point control with that in terms of alignment. I'm not seeing much in terms of what he could pull with a Glay. He has got Marching Orders in the graveyard of Jose Luis, which could also get him a Skirmisher as it so happens. But no, it looks like he's opting to just get out of the round. He's thinking, even if I can set up a Shiro, it ain't going to be enough, and I don't want to use this in this round. So that's a rough round 2 for Malaysian there.
Definitely. I do like keeping the Shiro though, because
Yeah,
Shiro
me too.
might either catch the big guys, but something Shiro can also do is use that epidemic and catch all those soldiers. If Jose Luis doesn't watch out and puts on multiple soldiers on the battlefield with 3 strength, Shiro can just get rid of all of them with the epidemic.
Absolutely. And looks like he's opting to play the Recruit though, so that does block any potential Epidemic play. And again, just setting up that engine. Whew. This is going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how Malaysian goes about this. Again, I'm struggling to remember. He's closed the graveyard of Jose Luis, so we can't see what special cards are available, but... Oh, there we go, yeah. Yep, Marching Orders still.
Which is still some decent points
Absolutely.
coming in.
Yeah, and there we go.
23.
That's right.
Which is
20
just a good
23
gold.
point play. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good gold.
Huh?
That's more than Nova.
He knows? But he won't be able to find it. Jose Luis is playing too many low point units, so
Yeah, that's right.
the Epidemic Dreams are probably out.
Epidemic Dreams. That sounds like a band name. There we are. There, out come the slaves. And we are going to see the 2-point boosts as well. Alright. Paulie. Again, not being able to see the graveyard. I'm just trying to think what Paulie might be used to access. I guess another skirmisher or a mercenary.
He has played a Barkley onto an 11-stat mercenary, so that might be something he's looking for right now.
Yeah, not a lot. Yeah, I'm trying to think how he's going to set this off. I mean, he has got the 13-point Scorch there. I guess he potentially could wait for that to grow, or try to find some way, as we mentioned last round, to align a Scorch, perhaps using a Skirmisher or similar. But it's going to be interesting to see if he can manage it. Yeah, here we go. So Hattori comes out. Oh. Yep, he opts for the Barclay into the Skirmisher. And he just gets rid of them.
I really like this play, because for one, he's killing the soldiers, so the sentries become worse, and he's also not getting the strengthen or the boost on the Skirmisher right now, so that does mean that his Shiro is still alive.
Absolutely, that's right. If he had actually elected to use the Skirmisher to hit a unit that did not die, it would have been boosted to 13, and he would have been with the same value as Jose Luis, and that Scorch would have been blocked. Or more to the point, it would have been worth 0, and we would have had the dreaded Self-Scorch. And out he comes again. Alright.
Luckily, he's still staying below that 13, so the Scorch is not yet a liability, but he still needs to find something better than 13 probably to win this game.
Yeah, it's not looking great so far. Gosh, okay, we are going to see Paulie come out next, I suppose. I mean, I can't see any way that Shiro isn't Malaysian's last play here.
Yeah, the the boosters from Jesse Louis are actually coming through pretty good right now. His deck is well built around this Shiro epidemic play. He has the recruits coming down as 1-point plays. His Kahir is pretty small to deny it, so there isn't an epidemic dream that I had.
The epidemic dream is dead. It's turned into an epidemic nightmare. And we are going to see another Skirmisher come down. And he's thinking about it. And he's going to go for the same play again by the looks of it. Just try to deny those extra boosts to Jose Luis.
Yeah, he's expecting the sentries to come out anytime soon. So actually killing off those 3-stat slave infantry is actually killing off 7-stat slave infantry by the boosts that are going to come down.
Exactly. So many people might look at that and go, hang on, why not go for the points in this case? Get yourself a 10-point unit. But as we can see, the sentries come down and boost by 2 for each sentry. So if you assume that it's actually going to end up being worth 7, that's the value that the Skirmisher could not get just by hitting a 4+ point unit. Alright. And last, not last, sorry, I was about to say last but not least, but it's in fact not the last card.
Almost.
Almost the last card. Okay, 12 points up. And those sentries right now are worth 7, 14, 22 points each. Ouch.
That does feel good to play.
And it feels bad to play against.
Definitely. Oh, there it goes. What can you really do in this spot?
Yeah.
Basically, Malaysian is down to praying for him having some kind of brick in his hand.
Exactly right. Here we go. Goes for the Scorch. 17-point Scorch. Nice. Jose Luis needs to have less than 9, has to have less than 9 points for Malaysian to pull this off. Oh, it's the Vilgefortz. Are we going to see it? Yeah, it needed to be a pretty horrible brick, and he didn't brick. Well, he kind of bricked, but it doesn't matter in this case. The Asir is enough to take the round. Okay, and here we are. So we are now 1 each. Jose Luis on 1, Malaysian on 1. This is what we like to see, folks. We are going to go into the 3rd game now. Dutch Boy, what do you think about that last game, just quickly?
I think it started to look a little bit scary for Jose Luis. He wasn't able to find the slave infantry early on, but it actually helped him because of Malaysian passing pretty early-ish without seeing any infantry, so that he could have just set up all 9 infantry and made those sentries crazy points.
Absolutely. Do we think that Malaysian could have gone further into round 2? I mean, I don't think either of us really thought he was going to get that card back, and having the power that he had in his hand, I don't know, it's a tough call in that situation.
It definitely was a tough call also because his hand was looking pretty decent. If his hand would have been any worse, like have more skirmishers or just other not so good dwarves, he could have played on and potentially get out those infantry, making the sentries in the final round only worth like 15-ish points, which is something he could compete with if he was a card down, but 20-point bronzes are just too good.
I think in the end that Jose Luis played that poet into Vremda, into stealing the unit, into a soldier, onto the Blue Mountain, it all kind of, I think that was really the definitive play that just generated so many points that Malaysian could not in the end up getting that card back. That was an insane play. All right, let's move on to game number 3. And we jump straight in here. So this was one where there was another little recording issue. So we're actually at the end of the first turn here. And Jose Luis finally loses coin flip and is playing Radovid versus the Dwarves, of course, again. So we see both of these decks coming back for the final game. This, I think, should be a little bit more even. Both of these decks, I think, generate power at a pretty similar level. What is your initial thought on this matchup?
I think like both both players are going to be having a pretty poor-looking first round with just getting rid of their shitty cards, thinning out, getting rid of those Blue Mountain elites, getting rid of those volunteers that you see come out once again, getting rid of that infantry, thinning the deck down to actually go to the good parts of the deck and generating good points.
Exactly right. And so you can see that the plays are happening quite fast from Malaysian there. And usually that's a sign that it's pretty obvious what they want to do. And in this case, yeah, just thinning the deck, getting those bronzes out, trying to maximize his chances of pulling more golds, because he did only pull Shuru here. And he uses the Skirmisher to take the armor off the Knight Elect so that it doesn't continue boosting. The Knight Elect, for those who might be a little bit newer to the game, it only boosts the units on each side by 1 per turn if it has armor. So the Skirmisher not only getting the 3-point boost by not killing the unit it targets, but also denying Jose Luis that ongoing boost from the Knight Elect. Of course, we do know that he is running Thunderbolt Potion, and I would be expecting to see that making an appearance sometime pretty soon.
And I think there it is.
Oh.
No, it's actually the Reaver Scout.
Ah.
Just starting to generate the points per turn plays coming in. Probably Malaysian is looking to deny it, shoot it once again down, and he is trying to fish for it. Does find it.
Nice, very good. And he gets to do the exact same play again. So,
which is pretty good for Malaysian.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And especially because he's now 13 points up and has 1 coin. That means that Jose Luis now needs to find 14 points of tempo in order to not drop behind here and go 2 cards down in the first round. And it's obviously not an easy choice for him because he's taken his time. That will be enough, I think. Yeah, there we go. Very nice. So he does elect there to play the Tormented Mage into Thunderbolt Potion, adds that armor back on to the Knight Elect, and gets that extra boost. But wow! Oh, there it is. Youch.
That's another big play coming up.
Yeah.
And something to look out for right now as well is that Javen and Shiru in Legion's hand. The Redanian Knight Elects are generating points, but it's also very clear how they are generating points. So Malaysian might be able to find a good spy spot in which he can set up a double 14 or 13-point Scorch.
Exactly right. So with that boost, he can assume that there is going to be a 13-point unit on that melee row soon, and he could just drop that spy on there and get a really nice Shiru. Do you think that he would go for it, though, I guess, at this early stage?
I think he might, since he knows that Jose Luis doesn't have a spy in his own deck, since he saw it before, and it's also very awkward to play it in a Dijkstra deck. So he knows that Jose Luis has to choose to either go -2 when Malaysian plays the card, or pass and go lose on even as well, putting him in a good spot either way.
Officer, and okay, he does swap out the mercenary.
Aww.
We do call that the officer, the Fryhead officer, we do call that Swappy Horse in the Team Aretuza Discord, and Swappy Horse has been played. Swappy Horse, of course, not as popular nowadays because of that coin flip. Dwarves now, of course, falling out of favor.
I still do like the card though. It's still my favorite card. It's just so flexible. Either he generate a huge point play if you mulligan away your spy, or it unbricks your hand, which is something we always love to do.
Absolutely. Okay, and so Jose Luis has started to rope. We haven't seen a lot of the rope yet in these games, but we're starting to now. And okay, there it is, another Night Elect. Could we see the Yaven here?
It's getting harder to play the Yaven since the points per turn are starting to become a lot. 6 points per turn is basically at least a third, maybe half a card. And that is hard to keep up with. If he wants to play the Yaven, he has to do it soon. But he decides to scrap the armor once again. Staying ahead.
Yeah, so we will see one of those Night Elects go to 13. But I think it might be too late now to play it. As he plays a 13, if he plays the Yaven now, it boosts to 13. Next turn, then... no, it's still okay, right?
I think it still works out decently.
And again, he just elects to use Death Mold for simple, straight up and down Alzo's Thunder. But he does, and this is important, he does drop Death Mold in between those Night Elects, making sure that that Night Elect does not go to 13 points. So Jose Luis very smartly playing around that potential double Scorch.
Which is something that does require a lot of knowledge into the game and knowing what your opponent is playing and seeing further than one turn ahead.
That said, I did just notice that the officer itself did go to 14 points anyway, so I suppose it was always blocked, but... Oh, and here we see an Igni as well. I have to say, it's not often that I've seen Shiru and Igni in the gold lineup, but what do you think of this? I quite like it, actually.
I think Malaysian would have liked it too if he had drawn it in round 1. Igni is just a card that you really want to see early on, otherwise it might become that awkward 5-point gold in the end.
Absolutely, and especially going into a round 2 that you do not control, that can get a little bit awkward because Jose Luis might elect here to split the rounds, and if he does that, the chances of that Igni finding value could be quite small.
It's also really good for Jose Luis that he has won the first round. Not playing a spy means that you always do want to win the first round, otherwise your opponent can fully dictate the game when he does spy you the second round. Absolutely.
So for those who don't know, the spy is a 13-point unit to your opponent, but it does give you a card. And in a situation such as this, for example, if Malaysian did not have the spy and Jose Luis did, he could drop that spy and just push round 2 as long as he wants and not lose card advantage. So it does have a strong role it can play, and Malaysian does elect to drop that Igni. As you mentioned, really you want to see that in round 1. So here in round 2, and going into a short-ish round 3, Malaysian just thinks, you know what, I'm probably not going to find value, I'm probably just going to have a 5-point gold card, I'm just going to let it go.
And he has to choose now whether he wants to keep the spy or not. It's kind of annoying to give your opponent 13 stats in the last round, but he does have Shiru, so he might be able to set up a better Shiru or find a double 13 again. Oh!
And you can see that he was having that exact thought process.
Yeah.
Pass, mulligan, pass, mulligan, pass, mulligan. I just didn't know. Yeah, but you're right. He does elect to use it and gets last say. He does also find that muzzle, which could be pretty valuable here on that Redanian
Muzzle
Elite.
Is definitely really good.
He steals the Redanian Elite, also denies that potential armor steal from Vincent that he knows is in the deck because he saw it in the first game, but we haven't seen it yet in this game. So he is denying potentially a lot more. Let me think. Because Vincent would get 2 points of armor from that. Sorry, 2 extra points from the armor, plus the 5-point boost. So it's essentially a 15-point steal from that muzzle.
Plus the 8 points that it's generating for yourself, so getting up with a 23.
23-point muzzle, not bad. But there's another one.
And that one does have even more armor. I was actually thinking whether he might want to keep the muzzle and wait for the shiny, because he might have also... Jose Luis might have taken a Night Elect from the shiny to get a good armor amount on the Night Elect so that it cannot be sniped away with Dwarf.
But I suppose on the flip side, you deny that extra value from the Night Elect by making sure that they use the shiny to pull the Redanian. So I guess I guess, yeah, you never know. It's like much of a muchness in the end sometimes. And we see Stennis coming out. Oh, the
Oh
infinite
boy,
opponent connection lost. Could this
not
be
like
it?
this.
Not like this, man. I like to hope that because we're watching this match, it means that it resolves. But if not, then
You don't know?
I don't know.
Ah.
Oh, there we go. All right, Stennis. Now we can find out what Stennis pulled, and it's another one.
Ooh.
Oh man, these Redanian elites, they're getting big. They've got, one of them has the 2 armor boost from Shani, and the other one has the, is it 5 armor boost? I think from Stennis. So we are seeing a lot of armor coming out here, and that Vincent, if he has it, that Vincent is gonna be pretty brutal. But Malaysian has that Shuru, and he has last say.
Yes, and if Jose Luis actually plays the Vincent too early, there are going to be a lot of 13s on the board with those Jordanian elites. So the Shiru is definitely going to come in clutch here. He has to be happy that he kept the spy in his hand right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably part of what he was tossing up to himself when he was going for that choice during the mulligan phase. Thinking about what could happen here. Does this guarantee my Shiru? And I think the guarantee of having at least 13-point Shiru is, you know, probably swung the decision that way. All right, we see
Kyra Mertz.
Yeah, Kyra Metz coming out and taking a Rakkus Venom as the choice, going for the 12-point hit onto the melee row of Malaysian. Hattori is going to be played. And there we go. Oh, that's a little bit awkward. Alright.
Yep, that's slightly too big.
Yeah.
Now the Shiru actually might become bricked if Jose Luis hasn't drawn the Vincent, which is something that can always happen.
But could Malaysian also potentially be trying to bluff that he doesn't have the Shiru? Because he could have gone just to kill, for example, the the Tormented Mage. And just taken that. But
I don't think he had that option the turn before. Everything had either too much armor or was too big.
Yes.
He is just going for it right now. And this is something that's actually just solid from Malaysian. At this point, he's generating so many points that Jose Luis either has to have Vincent or something big enough to overcome 20 points right now, and then he should probably have a Scorch, or he just wins on the spot.
Yeah, there it is. There is that 23-point Scorch target. Oh, how lovely it burns. There it goes. And that is that, folks. Malaysian taking it 2-1. And the first game does go to Team Aretuza. So congratulations to Malaysian for that, and well played, Jose Luis. If we head back right now, let me just pop this back up on the screen. Here we go. So you can now see our first matchup. Jose Luis for 1, Malaysian for 2. I'm just writing this down. There we go. And that does give the first matchup to Team Aretuza. What do you feel? How do you feel about those matches, Dutch Boy? I mean, that was some great play there, and especially I can't get over that Poet Vreemde play in that second game.
Yeah, that was pretty solid from him. I think that seeing these matches, you can already see that the patch has done quite a bit of work, and also the format that we're playing right now. Those decks were not really playable in any sense a few weeks before, and now you can see the players rocking it and actually making some pretty cool plays with cards we haven't seen that much before, with like cards like Kyra Mertz, and also the volunteers and the elites together in one deck just for massive thinning.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's head over to our next matchup. Here we go. This is Mike to Come versus a Guardia. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Mike to Come, Dutch Boy?
Sure thing. Mike Tacom is 24 years old, and he's a criminologist with a master's degree in criminal investigation and forensic science, which does sound pretty fancy.
Nice.
His favorite deck is Consume, which is also the fancy man's deck if you like to calculate a lot of things. And he used to play in a metal band.
He used to play in a metal band. That's right. Wow. Yeah, so obviously a very interesting person. It sounds like someone I'd like to get a beer with. And yeah, he is going to be playing against Guardia for Team Aretuza. We didn't actually get a lot of facts about Guardia, but we do know a little bit about what type of gameplay he likes. He says he much prefers playing in tournaments rather than ladders, because the building a lineup, it then involves a macro strategy rather than just playing any particular deck well. So that's something that he says he really prefers. Behind the scenes at Team Aretuza, he also looks after the tournament analysis team. So this is going to be interesting, I think. Yeah, how do you feel about this matchup, just having a look at it?
I think it's pretty cool because you do already see two completely different personalities clashing against each other. It's always nice to see a tournament analyst also playing in a tournament, so he can eventually analyze his own gameplay, which is pretty funny.
could either be very good or very painful.
And it's also good to see those faces actually play onto the bigger stage and see that they are also good Gwent players, even though you don't see them as much in tournaments.
Absolutely. Okay, so they did bring 3 leaders, of course, with 1 ban, so it is a best of 3 for those just joining us. So Mike to come bring Calvate, Bruva, and Harold, and Guardia brought Calvate, Bruva, so they both brought Calvate, Bruva, Mike to come bringing Harold, Guardia bringing Krak, and we did actually see both of them ban Skelliger, so we are seeing both of them in the end bringing Calvate and Bruva, so I suspect we might see a mirror somewhere in here.
Which is pretty interesting to see. There are quite a lot of micro decisions in mirrors, especially if you look at Calvate mirrors, for example, with the amount of ointments that can happen. A sire can break a lot of things. There are quite a big amount of factors that come into those games.
Absolutely. So let's jump straight in there and have a little look at what happened.
Wasn't built in a day.
All right, we are opening with Bruva and Calvate. All right, so we are not seeing the mirror, not quite. Okie dokie. So we are looking at it from Mike to Come's perspective. It'll be interesting to see here if we can see the other hand this time around. And we can! Alright, here we go. I know, magical. And I do have to do a special shout out actually to Green Cricket for doing the video editing and creating the graphics for today. Really couldn't have done it without him. So another wonderful Team Aretuza member and streamer if you don't know him already. Okay, here we go. The flip has gone to Guardia. Guardia will go first. And it looks like he's got a lot of agitators in his hand. And one of his golds, only a muzzle. On the flip side, Mike to come doesn't seem to have pulled anything particularly painful. Just trying to see what this matchup is looking like. I'm feeling like Mike to come's in a pretty good position here, having won the coin flip and having quite a solid starting hand. Really having a lot of ways to thin his deck.
Mike to come is, when you're playing Alchemy, you're always happy whenever you see that red coin, because your opening plays are always just a little bit more awkward.
Yeah, they're very reactive. Yeah.
Very reactive deck, definitely. But both players do not have many gold cards right now, so they do have to find some kind of win condition in the last game. Mike to come has Kahir and Stefan Skellen in his deck, so he's definitely looking for that thick Calvate in the last round.
Yeah, that's right. So what we do call thick Calvate, people, if you are not familiar with this term, the idea is that you play Calvate reasonably early, sometime in round 1 usually, and drop a Mandrake on it, boost it up, strengthen it up, and then find it later, and in order to just have a massive point swing. It usually just helps decks like Alchemy to have a finisher in a short round, which they don't often have necessarily if they don't have that thick Calvate waiting for them. Okay.
Mike to come could actually decide to be the most greedy player ever, and I always love being greedy in this game. He could decide to Mandrake the Calvate, putting it back with Desire into his deck, and Mandraking Calvate once again with the Vesemir to create this big 17-point Calvate. And how do you beat that?
Do you know what? I've never seen it, but I hope we see it. Sounds amazing.
I think he has a chance to pull it off, since he did start on red coin, and it's not that big of a tempo loss to do it.
He got the red coin, he's got the Mandrake in his hand, he's got the Vesemir in his hand, so he does have the setup to do it. We'll see. Oh, there's that thinning coming out again. And yeah, we're gonna see a very interesting play here. It looks like Guardia is again having lost coin, just kind of has to keep on top of it. Ooh.
That's not something you really want to see.
That ain't pretty. And so as we said, he is going for the early Calvate because he is going to go for the thick Calvate option. But what is he going to boost here? It's it doesn't really... He doesn't want to put it on the Calvate, presumably. But...
He is a little scared of Shiru.
Oh, there it is.
Ooh, he does choose to use it on the Calvate. That's interesting. Because if he does decide to boost it with the Mandrake and does eventually go for the thick Calvate plan with an even bigger Calvate, he does give a huge Scorch away.
That's right, and I'm just having a look here. He is definitely running Shiru. Guardia is definitely running Shiru, so we could see that, and Igni for that matter. So
yeah, just like it's a very similar list to Malaysian's list.
is it now?
I've got to get this.
There's a one card difference with the Bomber and the Riot Officer.
There is too. Yeah, with Malaysian running the Vryhead Officer and Guardia running the Dolbla Thunder Bomber. But aside from that, it is the same, more or less, dwarf deck that we did just see Malaysian playing. So we should be nice and familiar with it by now. Everyone at home should be nice and familiar with it by now.
Here's our chance.
Okay, we see the second Viper Witcher coming down.
For 9 points.
Okay,
Which is actually pretty interesting since most alchemy lists nowadays do have those 10-point
Yeah.
shots in the Viper
Absolutely.
Witchers.
Very often you see people kind of changing. Whoa, there it is. Changing how they construct their deck in order to make sure they get that minimum of 10 alchemy cards in their deck. But obviously Mike Tacum has elected to go for something else instead and just get that 9 points of power, which, you know, is still enough to remove most engines nowadays anyway. Basically the same as lightning. And Alzo's thunder, sorry.
Alzo's thunder?
I'll just call it
worries.
lightning. It's the lightning. The lightning
it's the zap
bolt.
thingy.
No. And...
Mike Tacum keeps on bullying, just staying slightly ahead of Guardia, and it's getting a little bit awkward for Guardia. He doesn't really have the high tempo plays to get out of this round. He does have the Brewer available to him, but that's so expensive to use.
Yep, and here we go. The thick Calvate begins. Oh,
Does it?
I don't know anymore.
Not sure yet?
I don't know anymore. I took it for granted, but that might have been a mistake.
Well, he's not sure if he wants to get more tempo since he is this close to bullying him to win on even, or if he just wants to set up this big Calvate for the last round.
Well, I mean,
he
it makes
doesn't have the career
yeah,
yet.
it does make sense on a red coin to go for that thicker Calvate option, just because, as you said, he can kind of afford to go behind here and you know, but Guardia is choosing, by the looks of it, is not taking the pass. Instead, bringing the Vicovara Novice over to his side, and Mike Tacum says, "Okay, I'm done. Thanks."
Yep, and this is actually pretty good for Guardia. He
Great for
didn't
Guardia.
only just create, he didn't only create 14 points on his muzzle. He also denied the ointment onto the Vicovara Novice. So he does give Mike Tacum less options. Oh, but there's a medic, so he might actually just take it right back.
Oh dear, that's right. Yeah. So as you were saying, he could have kind of done some chaining, I suppose, would have been his idea. But yeah, he does have the medic now, so he does also regain access to that novice that Guardia stole. Guardia is also holding on to the spy, and it looks like he is going to go for the option of trying to bleed Mike Tacum here. But as we all know, Mike Tacum also has the spy, and he finds Vilgefortz, which is a great find. The Viper Witcher goes to the bottom of his deck, and Guardia now has to decide: do I pass and get guaranteed last say, but have an Igni in my hand, or do I push this round? What are your feelings, Liam?
It's pretty awkward for Guardia right now. His hand is not looking too good with like the Bronze Dwarfs and the Igni, which can be a liability in the last round, especially against alchemists. You do know that they're always going to play in all 3 rounds for the Ills. And he has also seen the Mandrake come down onto the Calvate, so he knows that Mike Tacum is playing the Kahir and is going to have that 12-point gold together combined with another big card, generating massive amount of points.
Absolutely, and so there we go. Guardia does opt to take the pass. Mike Tacum dropping Skellen to make sure he gets access to that Kahir, and in turn to that thick Calvate that we saw in round 1. All right, There it is. There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
And he's happy. He doesn't even think twice about it. He's like, nope, I'm good. Thank you very much. All right, Guardia's taking his time though. This is not quite as nice of a draw for Guardia. He does find a Glay, I think, from what I can see in there, and it looks like he chose to stay with the Igni.
My prescription.
Yeah, he's basically thinking now that he has to find something big. If he just throws away the Igni, finds another mad dwarf, he's probably not gonna win the game. He has to find this great 20+ point Igni to have a chance of beating Mike to come.
Absolutely. And I suppose he did also see that Mandrake go on to Calvate. He knows. He saw the skeleton. He knows that the Calvate's coming out. He's not a spring chicken. He knows what's going to happen. And he's saying, all right, you want to play a nice big finisher? I'm ready. Bring it.
And Guardia does also have those Dwarf and Mercenaries, which can also be used to move your opponent's units. So if a Mike to come has multiple, let's say 12-stat units, he can line them up and pray that the ale doesn't hit them for a bigger Igni.
Exactly. And here we go. This is gonna be interesting to see because we've got the car here into Calvate. We've also got the Vilgefortz. So Mike to come will know in advance what Vilgefortz is gonna pull if he opts to play it beforehand.
I shall do as you
Which is always good to know. Having more information is always good, especially when you don't want to give your opponent points, or if you do have those damaging units which you want to play on a good timing when your opponent has some bigger units on his side of the battlefield.
Absolutely. Mike to come does elect to just try to get in the way of Guardia's strategy a little bit. He puts the dwarves back into his deck, meaning, I guess, that if we saw another Barclay, no, not another Barclay, if we saw another Paulie, he's not going to be able to decoy that Paulie. But he can decoy
it.
that. He can decoy that.
Which is basically just playing another Barclay. Good points. Thinning his deck out a little bit. Doesn't matter as much right now anymore, but it still feels pretty good. 21 points ahead. On even cards.
That's right. That ain't bad. But we have still not seen the thick Calvate coming back out.
That
so
was not in the spell
let's
books.
not go jump into any conclusions here. And we are seeing the 9-point hit from the Viper Witcher. 14-point
Just
bronze.
not killing it.
Not bad. Just not killing it. Now, Black Blood, this is an interesting card to keep in an alchemy deck nowadays. For those who don't know, Black Blood has been nerfed in the latest patch. It does now only draw from a bronze pool. So, oh, sorry, bronze or silver. Oh no, sorry, what am I talking about? Bronze. Ugh, my brain. Oh, but instead he goes for the thick Calvate, again getting that information to know what Vilgefortz is going to pull, and it's slave infantry, slave infantry, slave infantry. Get your slave infantry here, folks, because that's what Vilgefortz is going to be bringing out.
He decides to play the slave infantries nowadays just because alchemy is lacking that opening option right now, and slave infantry does give a nice setup for the ill, even though it's only a 9-point tempo play.
Yeah,
but
so he elects he elects actually to use Vilgefortz to pull out something from his graveyard. So he's going to save his chain for close to the end of this round, which of course is leaving Guardia on tenterhooks here because he's got that Igni and he's going, can you just play some nice high points here, please? I kind of want to get rid of this Igni now.
And he does do something which is something I also always like to do and see. He is already playing the basic cards, which are always going to be 9 points here, and he is keeping the ointment in his deck, which can be multiple things. If he burns a slave infantry, it can be another slave infantry. If he burns a novice, it can be another novice. Keeping options in your hand for later is just nice.
Exactly. Adds that flexibility to the end of the game when you know better what you're up against in the very last play. But we can also see that massive point gap that we were noticing before has also closed more or less now. So that thick Calvate really did pay off in terms of raw value. Well, here we go.
In the end, well, 70 points, just not the way we hoped it would have been.
There it is.
And here you can see,
That was not in the spell
it's a great tempo place that alchemy can provide.
Absolutely, and we do also see a 25-point row. So Guardia's breathing a sigh of relief. He's going, phew, at least I got something. 17 points, you know, not the most amazing gold, but also not too shabby. And I think it will be enough, if I'm not mistaken. I guess it depends on what that black blood finds. If it finds a ghoul, then it might not be so cool.
Wow. Wow. Did we fall behind so far? Did we drop to this point? Damn.
I aim to please.
We do see Guardia just playing the... Ooh, actually setting up for a big
very
hit.
nice. Alright. So he is setting up that Calvate on the same row as a Seer, going for that double 8-point Igni. That is going to be 16 plus 5. That makes a 21-point gold. And
I really like this setup.
So 21 points. I'm not sure he can find 21 points here. I don't think he will.
I really like the setup because if Mike Ticom is actually playing just a bigger unit, let's say he plays a 10-stat unit in the front row right now, he can still burn away the 10-stat unit, win anyway because of the extra points of the Igni. And if he is just playing something else, let's say Expire or something weird, he still does have that 20.1 point Igni. So he's basically setting up a win-win scenario for himself.
That's right, and he does take it by 4 points. Not a lot in that game, but really excellent play from both players. Yeah, there we go. So we are Guardia 1, Mike Ticom 0. Great first game. What did you think of that one, Dutch boy?
I personally really like that series.
Me
It
too.
was kind of surprising to see the Slave Infantry come out from the Alchemy deck in the end.
Yeah.
It seemed like a normal Alchemy deck, and in the end he just came in with those infantrymen just to push through, but in the end he didn't make it with just 4 points down. It might have come down to deck building and getting those slave infantries in only being worth 9 points. If it would have been just like 13, 14 points, he would have won that series.
That's it. If it would have been a 14-point bronze, he'd have had it. And yeah, that's true. And that's really what has happened with this Slave Driver nerf. For those who don't know, Slave Driver used to be a 1-point unit, and it would generate a field of 3. It would create a bronze unit from your opponent's starting deck. So it's basically one of your opponent's bronzes plus 1. And very powerful card, and it was changed. And now there are really not a lot of proactive plays left for an alchemy deck, so that's why we saw those slave infantry there, and that's what happens. So now we get to go into game 2. Any expectations, Dutch boy?
I just want to see the Shoop deck going down, because Mike Ticom is playing a Shoop deck. We have some inside information, and I always love seeing that card.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, it's true. We do. We have the deck list. We can see the Shoop there. A Bruva Shoop deck in Mike Ticom's hand. Hopefully we get to have a little look at it now. Let's see what happens.
I shall not.
All right, and we see Guardia with Calvate this time around, and there it is.
Yes! Oh, but no Shoop at hand.
No Shoop in hand,
Later.
but he is only running Elza. Oh, there it is. Don't worry. I was about to say he's
Feels
only
good,
running
man.
Elza's Double Cross as a special card, so he had a pretty good chance of finding Shoop with Yavin anyway. But yeah, he finds it, so no need for me to say that entire sentence.
And you do actually point out something quite interesting. Mike Ticom has actually decided to play Isengrim and ADC to have a higher chance of finding that spy again because of the Bruver nerf not being able to find the spy of his leader. So this way he still generates the same high likelihood of the spy finding the Shoop, which this deck desperately needs. And he has a higher chance of finding the spy in the first place, which is something you really do want to see.
Exactly, and he opts for the dry pass here. Interesting choice. What do you think about this, Liam?
I think that he is not happy with blue coin first off.
Yeah.
Whenever you're playing a Shoop deck, you're
That was
going
not in the spell
to
book.
play some more awkward bronze cards. You cannot generate this nice deck with only 14 plus point bronzes. You have to play some weaker bronzes, and if you do, most of your deck is going to be lower tempo. And if you're on blue coin and you're playing low tempo, you're gonna go fall behind and lose card advantage. And that's just something you don't want to do against Alchemy.
Absolutely, and add to that the fact that, of course, Alchemy needs to set up its graveyard for those ointments to be enabled, and, you know, it's a very popular strategy to dry pass against Alchemy as it is, and certainly you're right, with those kind of low power bronzes, I guess Mike Ticom looked at the situation and said, you know what, nope, I don't want blue coin, thank you very much, I think we'll just move on from there. And we do see as well, as you were saying before about the ADC as an extra guarantee to find that spy, we also see Dandelion Poet as even more kind of thinning and tempo, I guess to counter that low tempo problem that a lot of the bronzes in a shoot deck have.
But this is the really strong play from Guardia.
Beautiful.
Only playing a 4-stat spy for your opponent.
Exactly. That is just... I love this move. I love playing this move, I have to say. And when you play Rain Fund with Roach into the spy, it is, as you said, a 4-point spy, and it feels good.
But do you know what's even better than a 4-point spy for your opponent?
Tell me.
4-point spy for you.
Ooh.
He does have it in his hand, potentially.
With the... Poet.
The shoop options. He can choose to go for the mage and try to find the 4-stat, basically the counter, the reverse spy, with the points on your side, and also drawing the card. It is something we see less nowadays, because of the strength of using Shoop Hunter.
I was gonna say, Shoop Hunter is that kind of bit more reliable, right?
It's, yeah, the Hunter is more reliable, but it also depends on the situation, which is also something that's cool with Shoop. He does give many different options for when you play him. Something Mike Tecom could also do right now, because he passed so early, and if Guardia is also choosing to pass pretty early, is that he could even go for the mage, try to find the weather effect, since weather is so strong against Alchemy.
That's true. And especially nowadays, now that Black Blood, for example, doesn't ever find a weather clear. One of the reasons, in fact, that Black Blood was nerfed is so that it couldn't find the weather clear. That does kind of leave Alchemy in a bit of a tricky situation when it comes to weather.
So that's the cool thing I personally like about Shoop. You just have so many different options, and you also see different players choosing different options at certain times. Just because everything feels so damn good.
Gee, I don't know, I'm getting this impression, Dutch Boy, that you might like this deck.
I don't like the deck, I like the card. And sadly, to play the card, you have to play the deck. Which is good design by CDPR in that sense, at least.
Yes. Okay, and down comes the first Witcher. 10 points this time on Guardia's side.
And he just used the Panther pretty early on, just to make sure that it doesn't get bricked if Guardia chooses to set up his whole row with 4 units.
That's right. We do see that Guardia does have that ointment in his hand. It is not currently enabled as well. And Mike Tecom very kindly has the Cementerio open for us to have a look at, so we can have a little look there ourselves. That's the graveyard in Spanish, for those who might not have followed that little joke.
Yeah, I felt that.
They also call me Captain Obvious. Yeah, that's my other username. Apero and Captain Obvious. Okay, so here we are seeing the rope coming out. Guardia really having a solid think here about how deep he wants to go into this round.
He is in the driver's seat right now. He already played the spy. Mike Tecom hasn't answered this spy, which I do actually like because of his low tempo plays he has right now. Not playing the spy means that he's basically playing for free right now with those 13 extra points that was given to him.
And we also just saw him elect to take the 9 points of damage instead of the full 10 points of damage on the spy, presumably to protect against Shiru. Oh, that's gotta hurt.
Anyone special.
Yeah, so we do see the neophyte there. It boosts 2 random units in your hand by 1, and one of those units, it was the spy. So that's 1 extra point to Guardia.
Which is something you normally hate to see, giving your opponent even more points, but right now he does have the Shiru in hand.
Exactly, so we just mentioned that about how Guardia is not taking full value on the spy, presumably to protect against some sort of Scorch, but weirdly enough, that boost on Yavin could actually end up helping Mike Tecom if it does come to the point where he has to use Shiru in this round.
But it doesn't seem right now like it will be. He is only 4 stats ahead and not dropping even less tempo with Ailerin, potentially. Deciding to.
Yes, there it is. Yes, exactly. Dropping that low tempo card while he can. He knows. He knows Guardia's just trying to get some of his cards out, and he says, "Alright, you want to get my cards out? Here, let me get rid of some of the bad ones." And sure enough, there goes Aileron. Aileron normally, of course, procking out of your deck when you have 5 elves on the board, and you don't normally want to see that in your hand, but in this particular instance, it's not too shabby. We're gonna see who are we gonna see die here?
The
Oh,
soul of
just that.
steel.
Just hit, you know, not killing anyone. That's
Yeah, he's
evil,
just
such.
damaging, just breaking the kneecaps.
Just tickling. Yeah,
just breaking the kneecaps,
still alive.
not going for the full kill.
But both players are working on those solid hands. Mike Tecom is looking pretty scary with his leader, which can take the Hattori and thereby play the Hunter from the Shoop, getting those thick Hattoris in with the boost, replaying it, getting something solid again, generating way too many points in only 2 cards. But on the other side, Guardia is also getting those gold cards into his hand, also looking pretty scary.
That's right, and we do see Guardia did play the Mandrake onto Roach. We can assume that Asir is going to put that back into his deck, and he's going to draw it with either Triss or Vilgefortz in round 3. And we see the Spy also coming out. Again, 14 points, given that little bit of protection. Weirdly enough.
It is helping right now.
Yeah, weirdly enough, that thing that we were initially like going, ouch, that hurts. Now we're going, oh yeah, it's nice. That's Gwent, folks.
And I really like this from Guardia. He knows that it's kind of hard to generate this amount of tempo from Mike Tecom, so he decides to push even harder with his leader. So Mike Tecom might actually go down a card if he wants to go into the last round.
Yeah, and we can see that Guardia is really just refining his hand until he's got exactly what he wants left over to go into round 3. Oh, there is a very, I feel like almost unwanted Hoakim at this point, but it is going to offer a huge point swing. My goodness, he is 40 points ahead here. And if you're Mike Tecom, you must be sitting there going, "Oh boy, here we go."
And I actually do like the Joachim pull a lot from Guardia. I think he recognized the situation properly. He knows that Mike Tecom is playing the Shoop deck, so that he doesn't have those great tempo plays available to him without using the Shoop. So he decides to push even harder, make Mike Tecom use his better cards, and go with worse cards into the next round.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, 38 points ahead. He doesn't know which ambush card is sitting under there. I'm trying to think. We haven't seen any indication of what else it would be. He now knows that it's not to reveal, because the past did not reveal the card. Out comes Shuru.
But is it enough to
It's not enough.
it? So this was what I was...
Yeah, sorry, no, go on.
Thank you. This is what I was referring to with Mike Tecom. He played the Spy, so basically he wasn't playing the round for free anymore. Actually having to play some tempo. Guardia noticed that situation and decided to also beat up the tempo, playing the leader into the Joachim, just generating way too many points for Mike Tecom to compete with. And that makes him play the Shoop earlier than he would have liked to.
Absolutely, and he is going for the Hunter. He's thinking about it. He's looking at his deck. He's having a look at the options he's been given. He's looking at the board. Which one is he going to go with? I missed what the other 2 options were. One of them was play a bronze or silver from your deck. Here we go. Replay. Alright.
Elven Blarney.
Is that going to be enough with the... Yeah, it is! Oh, wow. It does it in 1 card. Very nice.
But it's still very expensive for him.
Very
Having to
expensive.
Shoop in anything than the last round.
Absolutely, and he did not end up using that either to get that weather down. So presumably he's going to save that just for a straight up and down Elzor's Thunder.
And it could also, it's still nice to have some bigger damage in your hand whenever you have a Shiro, so that if your opponent has, let's say, 2 9s and a 10, you can still zap the 10 down to a 1-stat unit and get those 9s together for a nice Scorch.
Absolutely. And we haven't seen Asir yet, but I'm guessing we're going to see her pretty soon. She's going to be putting that Roach back into Guardia's deck. He has got the Black Blood as well.
And this is also why Mike Tecom opted to start off with the Hattori, just so that it cannot get bricked by the enemy Asir.
Exactly right. Asia having the ability to put two cards back, two bronze or silver cards back into either your deck or your opponent's deck. So that Hattori could have been bricked if Guardia had had first say there. So yes, as you mentioned, Mike to come taking advantage of first say, playing that Hattori early, and just making sure there's no one's gonna mess with his graveyard.
Which might have also been an additional reason to dry pass in first round, knowing that he is gonna have first say into the last round and not have his Hattori bricked.
Absolutely.
Since his deck doesn't have that many Hattori targets actually. He only has the Forumthea and the Bark, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true. He does run the Neophyte, so I guess he hopes at some point that, you know, the Neophyte boosts the Hattori, but I mean, that's tricky.
19 points ahead against an Alchemy deck, but the Alchemy deck doesn't have Kahir or anything absolutely scary, it just has decently scary cards right now.
Well, we are definitely going to see an extra resurrection, I suspect, from Triss Telekinesis, who can pull out the ointment, or she could just drop some nice ale. And we also have, of course, the Roach back in the deck. We have the Vilgefortz. I think, I don't know, it's looking pretty scary here.
Yeah, Magticom doesn't have the most amazing cards right now, with only 9-point bronze cards to come out. Just dancing around with a Sire.
Yep, just says, you know what, I'll just move you over. Just to show that I can.
I mean, I think he's doing this because of like potential cards like Igni. Normally people don't play Igni in Alchemy decks, but if you can play around it, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
If you would move one of his own units, it would become harder to play around these cards, and it just looks better if you have 2 units in every single row.
Well, that's the obvious reason, you know, symmetry is the best reason to make any particular play, so now we all know. Alright, here we go. Triss, she does. Oh, he opts to go for the ointment, but draws into a dead novice. Wow.
That might actually get it a lot closer.
Yeah.
The dust
We
coming
see
out.
the VM. That's alright. Asia burning. Goodbye. Oh wow. It's still. I still think Guardia is favored here. I mean, right now Mike comes only 6 points ahead, and he's only got that Eater with a Thunder, so it's a 14 point. So he's got 20 points. He's 20 points ahead essentially right now. And
I think Guardia just noticed the situation and decided that he was too far ahead and he wanted to make the match a little closer.
Sure.
Just starting off with that PM
yeah.
before the game has ended.
Yeah, that must be it. And here we go. Yep.
There.
Why have you summoned me?
He can't get there. He's playing it out.
-1.
That's alright.
Does he decide to BM? No, that's it.
No. Guardia says, you know what? I know it, you know it. Let's finish it there. There we go. And that is it. Guardia has taken that series 2-0. Congratulations to Guardia. So Mike to come, unfortunately going in with a 0 there, but still a really good series. It was some really interesting plays there. What did you think about that second match, Dutch Boy?
I really like the decision making from Guardia. He started off in the second round knowing that he could just play around a bit. He played the Spy already, so he knew that he only had to be sure to stay ahead or not fall behind more than 14 points so his opponent couldn't spy him. And he started to throw away his bad cards. And after he actually got spied, he noticed that in this situation he was in, he was actually pretty far ahead, and Mightycom struggled to keep up. If he passed, the Shiru would have taken it, he would have gone to the last round and would have gone blown out by the shoot, but he decided to play on, played his leader, played a lot of tempo, and Mightycom wasn't really able to keep up with that. So he had to play the spy or the shoot in round 2, which eventually led to his downfall.
That's it. And I mean, I said it at the time. I was a bit skeptical at first of that Hoakim because I tend to think of Hoakim as quite a late game play. But I have to totally admit, you know, hands up in the air, that was genius. And in the end, it got Mike to come to spend one of his win conditions, and really he was left with some not very impressive cards going into round 3. So really great play there from both players, and some great reading of the situation from Guardia as well. Okay, I think that we're going to take this little moment. We are just going back. I'm just going to show you guys where we're at here. There we go. So we've had 2 games so far. We've had Jose Luis versus Malaysian. That was Jose Luis 1, Malaysian 2. We then had Mike to come and Guardia. That was 0-2. So Aretuza doing very well so far. So, you know, no pressure, Nova. But we are going to take a little break right now, just so that we can, you know, get some water, all this kind of stuff. So you guys just bear with us. We will be back real soon. See you soon. All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your little break as much as I did. I got some fresh coffee.
I got to pee, which is also very nice.
Priorities. Wonderful. Okay, so for those who might just be joining us, we have seen 2 of these 5 games so far. The Team Nova versus Team Aretuza Showmatch tournament. Jose Luis versus Malaysian, with Malaysian taking it 2-1. Mike to come versus Guardia, with Guardia taking it 2-0. And next up we have Windave versus Mr. Max. Let's have a little look at these 2 players. Here we are. Alright, do you want to tell us a little bit about Windave, Dutch Boy?
So Windave is 26-year-old. He studies piano and acting. He is quite an artistic guy.
Hey, nice.
And he also works as a quality assurance analyst.
Oh.
The more you know. He describes himself as a player full of feels and tilts, so I'm expecting some faster clicks and some emotes coming out here.
Yeah, full of feels. That's what we're gonna see what happens there. Mr. Max, on the other hand, is all of 16 years old. My God, sometimes it hits you how time has passed, doesn't it? Not for you, maybe, Dutch Boy. But he is a huge Witcher universe fan and regularly sits in the top 100 of both ranked and pro ladder. He says he's played almost every day since gaining access to the closed beta of Gwent in January 2017. So something tells me he knows what he's doing. Mr. Max today has brought Radovid, Dagon, and Calvate. Windave has brought Calvate and Aethne. So they've both brought Radovid and Calvate. Mr. Max bringing Dagon, Windave bringing Aethne. What are the bans today, Dutch Boy?
Both players are actually banning Calvate, and this is something that I expected to see a lot today. NG is just so very strong and dominant right now, and they have so many different decks that are just working out perfectly.
Yes, exactly. We do see Calvate banned by both of them, so which means that Mr. Max will be showing us Radovid and Dagon. Windave will be bringing Aethne and Radovid. So this should be interesting. Shall we get stuck in? What do you say?
Yes, sounds good.
Let's do it.
Do not test
And we do see Radovid coming out from Windave,
to the dungeon with it.
and also Radovid from Mr. Max. It is a mirror.
Ooh. This is something you don't see every day.
I was thinking the same thing. This is not a common occurrence. If you're playing Radovid on the ladder, you're not going to be seeing a lot of your friends. You're not going to be seeing many other Radovids there with you. So have a look here. He is mulliganing away the Kidweni Knight, which of course benefits from being drawn out of the deck. And he mulligans both of them, just like that. Windave having a bit of a think as well. Just having a little look at their deck lists here to see how similar or otherwise they are. They are actually quite different.
Even though we see the same leaders, we do see 2 completely different decks.
Yeah.
Mr. Max is actually playing a Nova version with Tormented Mage, of course, but also Adrian Mauler, which is something you don't see every day, only worth 11 points, but enabling that 22-point finisher in the Nova. Whereas Windave is actually just more focusing on the Vincent, playing more Radiant Elites and Redanian Lacts, but also has that thinning in the Temerian infantry.
Absolutely. And so yes, we do see that, for example, Mr. Max is also running DJ, which is we don't see in Windave's deck.
For that battle.
Oh.
And Spy, which is quite interesting. Whenever one player has the Spy and the other one doesn't, it's quite interesting to see how the tempo plays pan out, because whenever you don't play a Spy in your deck, you have to be scared of falling behind too much.
Absolutely. And here Mr. Max, of course, has lost the coin flip, but does have the Spy. So he does have a way to kind of reverse that back in his favour. But Windave, of course, does not have an answer. Not for the Spy, at any rate. And
But
he's...
Windave...
Sorry, go on.
Windave is probably looking to first off set off his lower tempo plays, which does enable Mr. Max to play the Spy and potentially get out of the round a little bit cheaper than he would have otherwise.
Exactly right. And we are seeing here that the Knight Elect is being dropped by both of them, so that's now evened out. They're both getting +2 per turn. Interesting there that Mr. Max he does have Death Mold in his hand. Why do you think he elected not to just use that and just zap that Knight Elect into oblivion?
It might have a few different reasons. For one, it's just solid to play your first own Knight Elect, because it's basically getting him the same thing, whether he's denying his opponent 2 points per turn or getting himself 2 points per turn. It doesn't really make that big of a difference. Plus, he's also denying Shani right now. If he doesn't choose to use the Death Mold this round, he doesn't have to be afraid of a Shani coming down onto the Knight Elect to give it even more armor.
Absolutely. And we do see Windave actually using his Death Mold to get rid of the Knight Elect on Mr. Max's side. And Mr. Max responds with his Mauler, the Adinian Mauler, getting rid of that armor, hitting that Knight Elect by 4 points, and just kind of making sure, you know what, I don't want you to keep boosting. That's okay. Please don't. But, of course, there is the answer. The Cursed Knight the Tormented Mage. I always call him Cursed Knight. The Tormented Mage coming out with the Thunderbolt Potion, and Mr. Max responds with the Thunder. And again, as you said, not putting the Knight Elect in the graveyard, leaving it open for potentially more armor to go onto it, but on the other hand, also making sure that Shani isn't enabled. He doesn't know that Windave doesn't have Shani in his hand, so we do. But still a good decision.
It's quite interesting to see two different philosophies coming down. You see Windave just immediately sniping it off, not wanting it to get armor once again, and Mr. Max deciding to take it a little slower, making it grow before he zaps it to deny that Shani. Maybe potentially Mr. Max is looking to find a good spy spot and push him all the way in this first round. Not too happy with that pull. You can already see him mousing over.
No. He could have taken the armor off the Knight Elect there. Could he not?
Yes, he could have. He decided not to, though, which is quite interesting to see. He might be too scared that Muntex has yet another potion, so removing the armor wouldn't have done that much in that case.
And so the boost wouldn't have been worth it in the end.
But it's also not being sure what you're playing against right now. Even though we have the deck list, they don't. They're playing blindly against each other, and they're not sure if her opponent has, let's say, an Orkara Mertz in his hand, being able to put yet another Thunderbolt potion onto it, or if he just has some bricks in his hand. He doesn't know.
Absolutely. Oh, and we see the DJ coming down.
That's quite early on for a DJ. Normally you see the DJ being played in the last round as a big finisher.
And it looks like it's pulled reinforcements. Is that right?
Yes,
yes, reinforcements, which has enabled Mr. Max to choose, basically, whatever he wants out of his deck. And Selkirk, whew, huge power unit. Not gonna find full value here, but it looks like it's gonna find 17 points, which ain't bad. The maximum value Selkirk can find is 19, so, you know, you'll take 17. You gotta be happy with 17.
But Windex also has got to be happy right now. He's already seeing those Dijkstra's coming out. Stennis, big tempo plays from Mr. Max's side, and he isn't investing all too much in this round, to be honest.
Absolutely. It's true. And what is interesting, though, is also seeing Stennis come down this early. It kind of does give a hint that Mr. Max knows he has access to a Shani. We see the kind of opposite happening here from Windave. Ooh, there's the Vincent. 19 points. Not too shabby. But as I was saying, the Windave holding on to his Stennis, as we see he does not have the Shani in his hand. But what's Mr. Max thinking here?
Mr. Max is probably getting a little annoyed of the Vincent because it is so damn good in this mirror. There aren't many decks right now that have these armor capabilities that Northern Realms has, and Vincent also strips away the armor from your opponent, so gaining him even more value without Windave even having to do anything for it.
Absolutely, he's hovering over it. He's saying, "God damn it, Vincent. Do I pass?" This is the tricky situation that Mr. Max is in here because he lost the coin flip. He really has to decide, do I go all in on this round? And he's holding on to this 13-point spy, and he's Radovid right now. I mean, really, it has the Knight Elect to target, and that's about it. And
that's also because of Windave's proper plays. He decided to wait a little bit with the Knight Elect, only having one on the board, ticking at any time, so that the opponent's Radovid would never be too much value.
Exactly right. And here comes Windave's Radovid. What is he going to elect to block? I assume he's just going to go for the full value here. Yeah, there we go.
There he goes.
No engines to lock down, but he can just keep pushing. He has the coin advantage. He can just keep going.
And
There
at
we
this
go.
point, Windave has to be happy. He's seeing good goals come out from Mr. Max, and you also know that Mr. Max is not happy with the spot he's in. You can see him playing points per turn at the end of the round, which is something you never want to be doing.
Absolutely. Exactly. Dropping an engine towards the end of the round kind of feels bad, man, you know. It's not a great situation to be in, and of course we also know he's holding on to that spy, which he can't afford to play at this point. So if Windave does not give in here, looks like that Windave's going to win this on even. So
Which is always insane in the mirror.
exactly right. And we could then see a simple dry pass in round 2, and we could then see Mr. Max essentially being 2 cards down in round 3. And how do you come back from that? That's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard to come back from being a card down into the last round. If you are playing the mirror, you can get away from it if your opponent is having some weaker plays and some worse stats per turn, but you're playing essentially against the same faction, so you're not expecting your opponent to have like half your cards, basically.
Exactly right. And Mr. Max does, of course, have the Nova, so short round could work for him, but even that Nova, I mean, 22 points of power, it's good, but it's it's not amazing.
Yeah, it's not that good.
And he does elect to play the spy here.
Oh, Windave
ouch.
is going with the bully pass.
Yeah. And
Mr. Max was really hoping to find something better there.
Exactly. Mr. Max is looking at his Knight Elect and going, well, you're not going to be enough. So he has to go for the pass here.
Aww.
And, he trolled us there. But he knows he's in a bad position as well. Obviously they're kind of giving us a hint that he might be aware of it. He's going to lose the Thunderbolt potion here, and he's not finding his Nova. He's hovering over it. He's showing us. He's saying, look, this is what I wanted. But he's not finding it.
Yeah, it's hard to climb out of the spot he's in right now. He has weak cards in his hand, he's on even cards, his opponent can just pass, decide to go even up a card. Windave even has the muzzle, which is really great, especially against cards like those
Knight
Knight Elects.
Totally, yeah, that Knight Elect is looking like prime muzzle territory. And, yeah, I mean, it's hard to see how Mr. Max is going to climb out of this hole. Unless he can find her. Maybe. Oh, there she is! Alright.
That's the first thing.
Okay, he's looking through his deck, he's thinking, what could I get if I mulligan these away? And I don't think there's a lot that would be much better than what he's already got, so I think he's probably going to elect to hold on to those.
He might mulligan away the Margarita, because he does have first say and is also basically losing double last say, so having reactive cards does not feel too good.
Yes, and you can see that here. The Knight Elect, of course, it only boosts if there's a unit to boost. So he needed a unit down on the board. And the Margarita, of course, she only works if there's a target to lock. So he kind of is forced in a situation there to play the Nova. And he's going to go for them. Oh, no, I take it all back. Don't worry. Had nothing to say. It's fine. Just talking to myself. I'm all good. He decides to muzzle over the Knight Elect, and that's brutal. Oh, man. Yep, there it is. And there he goes. There it is. I mean, yeah, you don't envy him in that situation. You losing coin on a mirror, it's always going to be an uphill battle. How do you feel about that game, Dutch Boy? I mean, is there anything Mr. Max could have done there?
I feel like it was basically rough for him. The matchup was not too great for him, especially when he was on blue coin. Whenever you're playing something gimmicky like Serenova or Shoop, not so much in that the card itself is gimmicky, but it does make your deck a little worse overall because of those rules you have to apply to. And that means that you're basically going to go lose on tempo whenever you're playing in a mirror situation.
Yes.
And that basically got him. Together with the blue coin, he wasn't able to keep up and lost that card advantage that eventually led down to him losing.
That's right. You know, the sacrifice that you have to make by only putting in 2 copies of every bronze card, it means, you know, in the end, you're going to sacrifice a little bit in terms of synergy. You're going to sacrifice a little bit in terms of power of your bronzes in that situation. And as you said, it does mean that you get forced into some awkward situations there. But well played by both of them. And we can now move into game 2. So let's see what happens next.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, and we are seeing Aithne coming out versus Radovid. All right. I am, excuse me for one moment. I will be one moment. Oh no.
And Windave is actually playing something very similar to the list Andy once was using in the open. He is using the Ethne nowadays though because of the recent change to Brewer, but he still does have the hand buff package in his deck. Whereas Mr. Max is still trying to get his win with Radovid.
That's right, and we are just having a look here at Windave's deck. Yeah, we do see like quite an interesting deck here. Quite a hand buffy deck. Going for the Sword Masters, and is exciting. Is that exciting?
No, you're so happy to have a red coin.
He's circling that coin. He is dancing around that coin. Mr. Max is saying, "You screwed me last time, buddy. Not this time."
And that feel is way too familiar when you're playing Gwent a lot.
Okay, and Windave does opt for the dry pass.
That is
Yeah.
quite interesting in his position, because he knows that he is gonna play against Nightelex, and Nightelex do generate point per turn.
That's right.
And you don't want to go into a long round when your opponent can generate many more point per turns.
That's right. He is running the double artifact compression package, also Mandrake. He's running Ida. I'm just trying to think what answers he has in his Aithne to deal with the Nightelect. So I suppose that would be what he would be going for. I mean, there's not a lot of engines in this deck, so I suppose that artifact compression that's destined for a Nightelect. Or is there a Vincent in this deck? Actually, now that I think of it.
I don't
There
think
isn't.
he's... No,
No.
he's not playing as Vincent in his list.
But does
But-
Windave know that?
No, probably not. He hasn't seen it last series. Vincent is less popular in Serie Nova's decks because you cannot build your deck fully around the armor aspect. But he still doesn't know for sure that Mr. Max isn't playing a Vincent.
So that could be interesting in that case, whether he decides to hold on to something like compression, or whether he decides to just get ahead of it early.
But he does have multiple answers to Vincent in any case, since he does have both the compression and the Mandrake.
It's true enough. And we are seeing Mr. Max dropping the spy here and saying, I am going to go into this hand. I am going to bleed you. Let's see. But it is a bit dangerous with those Dragoons on the board. Going into a long round 2 does give Windave a chance to really build up his hand. Although, looking at his hand, I don't see any Swordmasters.
No Swordmasters, no Brian, which is pretty awkward if you have this many Dragoons and buffs in your hand.
Absolutely. And so we're seeing here that Windave, I mean, again, Mr. Max doesn't know that Windave isn't holding on to that kind of thing, but it does put him in a little bit of an awkward situation, because Windave is trying to put out these threats that he's gonna boost his units, and there goes the lock. He's going for the early lock instead, and that does make Windave feel a little more confident about dropping another Dragoon. But more denial. Deny.
Yeah, by this play you can see that Mr. Max is respecting Windave as a player. He's using Radovid even though he only has one Dragoon on the board, and he knows that he's gonna have more Dragoons into his hand. But he is expecting Windave to not play any more than one Dragoon onto the board when Radovid is still available to him.
Absolutely. And we do see that Nightelect going down as predicted. That's kind of Mr. Max also giving a hint. I'm not leaving this round. I'm in it. I'm in this round, buddy.
Both players are actually using some bigger long round cards right now.
Yeah, there it is. There's the artifact compression, as expected, onto the Nightelect, just denying that 2 point per turn boost. And, ooh,
But Mr. Max is thinning a lot right now. He is
true.
gonna have a higher chance of finding those good gold cards in the final round, and Windave isn't generating much of a final round right now.
It's true, and he hasn't found, Mr. Max hasn't found Shani or Seltkirk yet, so presumably he is really relying on this thinning to gain access to that as well. And Windave? I missed what that was. The
Alpha Mercenary. But
mercenary?
he does decide to play Dragoon.
Humans abide us.
Okay. Does he have any more ways to deny the Dragoon? Really, I'm not seeing it.
He does have one option, and that is the big blue button on the left right now. This is something that I never liked the Dragoon way too much in the handbuff deck, because most of the time it would just get either bullied and sniped down, locked, or just killed by Witchers, or people would just pass if you played 2 Dragoons, because what are you gonna do about it? You're losing way too much tempo whenever you're playing 2 Dragoons, because it's only 16 points for 2 cards, which isn't that much.
Exactly, and we do see Mr. Max here saying, no, you know what, that big blue button, I don't like that big blue button just yet. And so he does drop the Stennis here and pulls out the, oh no, my brain, the Kidweni Cavalry, if I'm not mistaken. And, is that right? Have I got it right? I get all
Knight,
the kids.
the Knight.
Oh god. Cavalry,
So close.
Knight, Kidwani, Kidweni, Redanian, and here we see Death Mold. Ah, there it is. That's how he gets him. Again, denying that. He has not taken that blue button option that you were talking about, Dutch Boy. How do you feel about that?
I think that's a solid play. He is able to deny all Dragoons, and Windex isn't really able to set up a good third round with all those Dragoons locked, while Mr. Max is able to thin out his deck a lot and generate a really strong last round.
Absolutely, yeah. That Stennis being dropped, to me, reads as a form of confidence from Mr. Max that he's going to find Shani. He's going to find her, and he's going to use her in round 3. If not by pulling her, then via DJ. So again, I think we're going to see just those last 2 thinning cards, maybe that third bronze, and then maybe he just gets out.
This is quite interesting because he's kind of deciding whether or not he wants to get lucky in the next round or not, and he does decide that he is going to be.
Oh, hey, okay, we lost you for a second there. You
sorry.
you said he's decided that he's going to be.
Oh, he decides that he is going to be gonna get a little lucky next round. He could have taken the Knight right here and made sure it's available to him in this next drawing phase. But he opts to take the Elite, giving him a bit of a better Dijkstra potentially into the next round.
Yeah, we'll see if it's gonna pay off. And what is Windave playing here? Oh, he's going for the Spy. Okay, so this could also be a pretty nice blue button moment.
Yeah, Mr. Max definitely does not want to fall behind, but he is still up.
I'm itching for that battle.
Falling behind too much right now.
That's right, and he does elect that huge tempo swing. And he's now up 32 points. And there's the muzzle. I still remember when muzzle was first introduced, and we saw the first tournament. I think it was open number 3, and it was just muzzle everywhere. Oh, Dutch Boy, do we still have you? I think we may have lost Dutch Boy. Let me see if I can get him back on the line. Alright, so in the meantime, while we wait for him... Oh, hang on. Here he is. Oh. That doesn't sound good. Okay, we seem to have lost him. I'll let you guys know when he comes back. In the meantime, let's just have a look at what happens in the rest of this game. So we're seeing here Windave really now 12 points behind, but he's got this 8th knee in his hand. He's looking at Isengrim Outlaw. Let's see if... I'm trying to now toggle between the screen of the game going on and also getting Liam back on the line. Let's see if we can get him back. We do have reinforcements coming out. Juggling. This is what I call juggling. Brain juggling. We are gonna see here if we can get him back on the line. Okay, the DJ has been played. He's really going for this round. He is really gonna force Windave down. He's not giving up. Dutch Boy also hopefully not giving up on me. We are gonna see soon. Okay, so Mr. Max is now sitting 34 points ahead. Windave must be thinking here about how he's going to make up these points. He did not have the Swordmasters in his hands. He could not go for those boosts and go for that late stage damage, which is presumably what Mr. Max was trying to drag out of him here. We are going to see the 8th Nay. What its target is going to be, we have a few different options.
Hello.
Oi, there he is. Hey, you're back.
Yeah, apologies, my internet dropped for a second.
Well, you're back with us now, which is what's important. Yeah, I was trying to like juggle getting you back on the line and commentating. It was a bit of a mess, so I'm glad to have you back.
Sure, it'll fine.
All right, and let me just share this with you. I think right now you can't really see what's happening, so let me do that for you. There we go. We are seeing Mr. Max went right into that round. He's only got one card left in his hand, and it is the Siri Nova. But he's 17 points ahead, so we're gonna see here if Windave can do it on even, or if in fact he will have to go down.
He's probably able to do it on even with the 10-point Isengrim Outlaw coming out,
You would
but
assume
his
so.
hand is not looking too good, with only having Reconnaissance for the final round and not having too good of a deck for top decks. Might get hard for him.
That's right, and we did see Mr. Max already use his DJ, but he only has 4 cards left in his deck, so the chances of drawing into something nice are pretty high. His Selkirk or Shani is what he's going to be looking for, presumably Shani, and there she is. He's got to be happy with that. Meanwhile, Ida on the other side and a Reconnaissance. We of course can't see which bronzes are left in Windave's deck. But, you know, it's looking like there's a few 5-point Swordmasters in there.
And the 10-point support,
Yeah.
which is not something you want to see in the final round.
No.
Mr. Max is showing how it's done.
Here it goes. Out comes the Mauler. Huge. And there's no, yeah, this is over. Mr. Max, that 22-point Nova is gonna take it. Yeah, there's the zap. And he only needs 1 point, so even if he didn't have 2 bronzes in his hand in his entire deck right now, he'd still be okay. But he does have the Siri Nova and takes that game. All right. So that's 1 each so far for Windave and Mr. Max. So a very tight matchup here. Welcome back, Dutch Boy, by the way.
Thank you.
You seem to be a little bit off center. Let me see if I can. There you are. No, you're back with us now. Welcome back. So aside from that last game, which we kind of missed, I'm sure you missed a little bit of. What did you think of that match?
I think that it mostly has come down to Windave not drawing the best of his deck right now. He did find all the Dragoons and some supports, which were really nice, but without a single Swordmaster, you cannot really set up for a good last round. And Mr. Max thinned out a good amount of his deck and found that super good last round with Serenova and Shani.
Absolutely. That Shani, falling into that Shani, you just go, like, could you get a better draw in round 3? Probably not. But yeah, he did really push that round 2. He said, I'm not content with just getting my card back. I'm going all the way here and really forcing you into this last card of yours. So yes, we did see that, and very nice game, and we have 1 game left. We are 1 each, so only one person can take it. For those just joining us, these are best of 3s, so we are going to see this final matchup here, and we should see the 2 losing decks coming back with a vengeance. Here we go, let's do it.
There will be no negotiation.
And here it is, we have Windave's 8th Nay against Mr. Max's Dagon. And this is a Deathwish deck, so we are working with Dagon Deathwish here from Mr. Max. With double Foglet draw. No one likes that.
Ooh.
No one likes that. And it is also a Nova deck, so we are only seeing 2 of each unit. as well. So there wasn't even a really blacklisting potential in those foglets. Them.
Yeah,
Alright.
Mr. Max really seems to be a Suri Nova lover, and that is respectable. I mean, Suri is a cool girl. If you've played The Witcher 3, you have to love her in the end, and you would be really glad if she could accompany you in.
Oh. If she could accompany your what? You dropped out at
If
the
she could
worst
accompany
moment.
you in your Gwent adventures. Boy, I hope it didn't go anything like weirdly or something.
It's okay. Yeah, no spoilers here. I haven't played Witcher 3, so let's not get ahead of it. I do need to do that. I need to do that.
You should. You really
I know.
should.
I know. I'm playing Witcher 2 though. I'm playing Witcher 2 with my
Okay,
with my viewers.
That's a good setup.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
time.
that's cool.
It's a good time. Can't wait to find Gwent in Witcher 3 though. All right, Mr. Max does elect to go for the dry pass, of course. Dagon is pretty good in a long round. I think it does rely a little bit on setting up his graveyard normally. However, we see that he's actually not running Brewers in his list, so he's not kind of relying on that anymore.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting list with both Muzzle and Garen. He has some good Engineate into his deck. He also has Vader Maker, which is normally used for the fog, but can always be used for the zap as well.
That's right. He does
There it
draw
is.
another Foglet and loses it straight away. He's hovering over well played, letting us know what he thinks of the Mulligan feature, I suspect. And Windave here. Yeah, he's thinking about it. And he's looking at all of his individual cards for us. Means we can't really see what's happening on the board, but at least we get to look at his deck in detail. Okay, so Windave is hovering over the Dragoon, presumably thinking about going into a long round. He does have the Spy in his hand, so he knows he can kind of afford to play into this round a bit. Now, Mr. Max does run Frightener, but he doesn't have access to it, so if he does get spied, he's not going to be able to spy back. But he does drop the fog, get rid of one of those awful foglets that he's been drawing into. And puts it right on top of the Dragoon, hopefully gonna just bleed that down, get it off the board, eventually. And I suspect we'll be seeing an Arcaspore pretty soon.
And even if Windave opts to play a bigger unit into the back row, he still has the Karen to eat away the Dragoon, making sure that Windave isn't getting that.
Alright. Dutch Boy, are you with us?
I hope I am.
You said he's going to make sure that that the Dragoon, I think you're going to say the Dragoon isn't going to get too much value over time because the Kran does kind of guarantee that he's going to get to destroy it at some point, I think was where you were going with that. Is that more or less?
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay, we see the second Dragoon. All the Dragoons! This time, Windave does have those Swordmasters in his hand, so he's hoping that those Dragoons are going to land some sweet, sweet boosts onto those Swordmasters. For those who don't know, the Swordmasters deal damage equal to their power, so the bigger you can boost them up, the more damage you are going to get, and the more those units are going to be worth. And this time, Mr. Max just goes for a straight up and down Alzor's Thunder with Vader Maker, and just says, nope, I don't think I want that Dragoon out here, thank you very much. And loses it. And out comes Ida, clearing the fog. There it is. And giving that extra boost to the Dragoon. But, as Dutch Boy predicted, quite correctly, the K-Rank comes out and consumes the 6-point Dragoon, denying that added value to those Swordmasters. And we can see that the Dragoons did not, in fact, only hit the Swordmasters, they did hit some of the other units. Of course, for each Swordmaster they hit, it's essentially worth 2 points rather than 1. So even though it's nice having the rest of your cards boosted, you really want to see that boost land on the Swordmasters. How you doing there, Dutch Boy? You still with us?
Oh, this is painful. I'm watching a slideshow. Am I still hearable?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Okay, good. So,
And now we can't hear you.
Ah,
Whoosh! Yeah, we're gonna suffer through this together. I think after this game we might take a little be right back break, and then we'll see if we can sort out these technical issues. But hopefully it's not just a internet bandwidth problem. Okay, and we do see the Arcaspore going down, if I'm not mistaken. And I kind of missed what happened, I gotta be honest with you. But trying to fix technical problems in custom matches, maybe not the best combination. So here we go. Windave hovering over that reconnaissance. What is he looking for here, Liam, do you think?
Swordmasters even more. He doesn't have to be afraid of the losing behind or falling behind too far in tempo, since he already has the spy advantage. So he can just play whatever he wants, and this deck is very high.
This deck is very what, sorry?
This deck is very good at generating those huge Swordmasters for the last round and generating that big win condition at the cost of tempo.
Exactly. So we can assume here that he's kind of looking at things like thinning value, at things like how to get some more boosts on his units. He's using the Mandrake there to deny the Dow its Death Wish, but also to make sure he doesn't know, of course, that Brewess isn't being run in this version, I think. So he is also trying to make sure that if there is a Brewess in play, she's not going to be able to resurrect that Dow. That Dow is gone. That Dow is banished. We're not going to see any little Dows springing up anytime soon. The baby Dows will not be arriving. And similarly, we see the denial of the artifact as well. Mr. Max says, alright, well, you know, I've got these little Barbagazis here. They're only worth 6 points, but you want to go far into this round? Let's go far into this round. I'm going to get myself set up for a nice start to round 3. We are seeing, I missed that for a second there, we are seeing, there's the extra boost as predicted. He chooses to put it onto Bran instead of onto the Swordmaster. We then see the Rotfiend being dropped in the center row. He does have the Barbagazi to get him value from that, so he's probably presumably going to use that Barbagazi to eat the Rotfiend, get that 2-point hit on the center row. Not great, of course, considering there's only one unit on every one of Windave's rows. However, that is what he needs to do. You know, he needs to find value somewhere, and he does not want to play his Nova, and he does not want to play his, if I'm not mistaken, Osrael. I assume those are the 2 cards he wants to hold on to going into round 3.
There will be no negotiation.
How you doing, Dutch boy? He's still playing with his internet connection, I suspect. We're gonna wait for him.
This is painful.
It's painful? Alright, hang on. I'm gonna hang up the call and call you back. Or maybe you call me back once you're connected in, and then we'll be good.
Sounds good. Good luck.
Alright. Okay, good luck. Sounds about right. Okay, we are going in. Now, I didn't see what just happened, as predicted. But we are gonna see. I suspect that boy right now is setting up on his Ethernet, so hopefully we'll have him back in just a second. We're seeing the Shuru come down on the 16. Mr. Max still ahead by 13 points. Not enough to hero pass here. So he has to keep playing into this round, and who knows how far Windave is going to take this. Without being able to see what is left in Windave's deck, it's hard to kind of think what he wants to go into round 3 with, but given he's been boosting the Brienne, I would be running on the assumption that the Brienne is his kind of last play. We see 23 points ahead by Mr. Max here, and he is looking at that Osrael and that Sirenova and thinking, please don't make me use them. But Windave, of course, now knows this is a Nova deck. And I think if he can, he wants to get it out, but he doesn't know what else Mr. Max is holding on to. And I assume right now what he's doing is circling around that blue button on his side. Oh, nope, he's having a look at the Swordmasters. And he's going to keep going. He's determined. He surely knows at this point he's not getting it back. So we are going to see, there we go, the Swordmaster lays down into the Kairan for a full 14 points of value. See the Griffin play on the Rotfiend, hitting the melee row on Windave's side by 4. And now, with a 22-point advantage, Windave has to face the decision yet again. Do I stay or do I go? We're seeing, there's the... Okay, and here we go into the 3rd round. So both going in with 2 cards, but what power we see on Mr. Max's side of the board. This Arcaspore is not amazing, and he does elect to get it, but he finds the Foglet. Oh, and that's gotta hurt. That's gotta hurt. Look at him. He's showing us in his deck. He's saying, yeah, well played, Mulligan feature. Well played. He's showing us in his deck list. Look at all the stuff I could have drawn into. Get a Foglet. I think we've all been there, but it kind of sucks. The Dragoon right now can only do good boosts. Okay, we are seeing a drop. Eating that 13-point unit. That Yavin, if I'm not mistaken. It is a solid boost, but is it going to be enough? Oh, Windave is tossing up between the 2 units. There is that one.
Weapons laugh.
And I think this is going to be enough here. We see the 22-point Nova, and out comes Brienne. Bada bing, bada boom. That is 2-point win. And that brings us to the end of that game. Oh, hang on, I've got to back up. There's my backup. Do you know, I actually was prepared for this, and I had a backup picture of Liam on hand so that we could put him there. So yes, for those just joining us, we did lose our second caster halfway through that game. That was Windave versus Mr. Max. Windave did take it 2-1, so congratulations to Windave. The first Team Nova win of this show match. Really wonderful play by both of them. I'm so sorry that I couldn't provide my full attention in some of those moments, and we did lose our caster. So we are going to take a little break, see if we can't resolve these issues. I suspect that Dutch Boy is waiting with an Ethernet cable for me to set that up. So thank you all for your patience. We will continue in, well, I mean, honestly, however long it takes, probably about 5 minutes. Oops. I'll close that. You can have a look at some Skellige Storm in the background. And there we go. And we will be back in, hopefully 5 or 10 minutes, maybe less, to hopefully continue to show you the following 2 games, Edroba versus Gwent Town and Jamedi versus Andiwand, our final 2 matchups in this Team Nova versus Team Aretuza cast. I will see you guys real soon. All right, everyone, we are back, and we do have LB Dutch Boy on the line. Dutch Boy, are you there?
Yes, I hope I am, and I hope I will be for the next of the.
Very good. So yes, we do have Dutch Boy back on the line. We've elected not to use cameras, just as a kind of safety mechanism with regards to the internet. Hopefully that means that we'll still get his voice loud and clear. And we have got this gorgeous photo of the man himself. Anyway, when we were talking before this stream, we referred to it as his evil twin. But you guys could just know that it's him. It's good. All right, so let's go straight in. We're gonna have a look at our fourth matchup. Just to give you guys a bit of a summary so far, we've played 3 of these matchups so far. Jose Luis versus Malaysian. Malaysian came away 2-1 from that matchup. Mike to Come versus Guardia. Guardia took that 2-0. And Windave versus Mr. Max. Windave taking it 2-1. So we have 2 to Team Aretuza, 1 to Team Nova so far. And we do have 2 more matches to play. And we are about to go into Edroba versus Gwent to Town. So let's have a little look at these 2 players. Dutch Boy, do you want to tell us a little bit about Edroba?
So Edroba is a 23-year-old Gwent player. He is a biologist studying his masters in Barcelona, which sound pretty good. I quote now, I'm the only non-human degenerate player in the world who plays Ada and has a successful win rate with her.
yeah, I love that quote that we got from him. The only non-human degenerate. Very good. And Gwent to Town is the Team Aretuza representative here. He's a Spanish player, actually, so we've got the Spaniard on Spaniard action. The Spanish player, he prefers effective decks, and he says he really likes decks that specialize in and complex gameplay. So very interesting stuff. Gwent to Town, they've brought very different decks. Gwent to Town brought Bruva, Emir, and Arrakis Queen. Edroba brought Krok, Radovid, and Arrakis Queen. So of course they're both bringing Consume. What did we have for bans for this one, Dutch Boy?
So Gwent to Town opted to ban the Krach from Edroba, and Edroba opted to actually.
Yeah, he banned Arrakis Queen. Yes, exactly. We lost you for a moment, so I thought I'd just fill in the gap there.
Good.
I know. Just for a moment. It was okay. And yes, so we do have their Arrakis Queen being banned for Gwent to Town and Krok being banned for Edroba, which means we will see Arrakis Queen coming from Edroba. I think that'll be the first Consume matchup that we've actually seen in this series so far.
Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting for Gwent to Town not to ban the Arrakis Queen, which might mean that he has something spicy or some neckers coming up.
Yeah, might have something a little bit spicy or a little bit interesting there to kind of to deny that Arrakis Queen value. Give me one moment. All right, here we go. Let's hop straight into it and see how we go. All right, here we are. We are jumping straight in, and it looks like we will get a Consume matchup straight away.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always love seeing that Consume deck.
Hang on. Sorry, I seem to be having some. I don't know what just happened. Oh. We're in a different game. Hang on one second. I don't know what's going on here.
We're getting debated.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Yes.
Here we are. Okay, let's try that again. Consume matchup. Pro level stuff. Alright, we are seeing firstly a mulligan on one of the neckers. We see another Vran going. Ideally here, what we're looking for is for him to have access to 2 neckers and to all of his Necker warriors, and it looks like he has that, if I'm not mistaken. He has the ADC, he has the Neck warrior, he has the Slizzard, he has Marilyn, and a Neck. I mean, this is really a great opening hand.
It's starting to look pretty good, and at this point, Edroba is probably trying to find his calculator, because big your neckers are in the deck, how many points you can generate, and what chances are of finding the right necker is pretty tough when you're playing this deck.
Absolutely. The early coral coming out to just deny that necker and say, nope, I don't think so. I think I'm just going to not let you do that. But luckily, Edroba does have a backup. He does have another necker, and he's going to use Poet here to get the extra tempo. Of course, one of the major problems with Consume being early round tempo, a first round tempo, and he's trying to get ahead of that problem right now.
He actually does the decoy, and the decoy is gonna be pretty clutch if tied to eventually Mandrake or muzzle the necker. So that means that he can decoy the Maryland once again and get his last necker out.
Absolutely.
Checking if the summoning circle is actually a necker right now. And it is.
It is. Exactly. Summoning Circle being run in this deck specifically for that purpose and to avoid Mandrakes as well. Unfortunately, Gwent has both of them. He has the Muzzle and the Mandrake and the Coral in his opening hand. Whew. That is some nightmare material right there.
But Edroba does have his final answer too, and that should be enough to get going with the full necker giant chain, getting in the necker warriors onto the neckers, generating more neckers, getting more neckers into your deck, making them bigger.
Exactly right. And Gwent now, I don't see anything, I mean nothing in his deck is standing out to me as an option here to get rid of that necker, so I think he might just have to accept his fate here and start building value on his side of the board, which of course he can do quite effectively, using those light longships, using those great swords presumably at some point soon. And Edroba is going to start bringing out those Necker Warriors, and because he won coin, he also doesn't need to worry too much about that low tempo. He's just gonna do his thing. This is what Consume does. It just does its thing, builds its Neckers up, consumes a lot of stuff, and then ends with those huge power swings in round 3. And he is being in control of the coin in that scenario is pretty brutal. So it's a pretty nice situation for Edroba. But on the flip side,
lopped off 3 heads
Great
with
Swords
one
also
blow.
benefits from long rounds building value into round 3.
And Gwent has to be at least a little pissed off that Edroba was able to find this necker chain. He had so all of the neckers, but Edroba also had all of the follow-up answers for Gwentatown's questions.
That's right, Gwentatown really had every answer he needed. He played every single one, and Edroba still had the answer for all of them. The decoy, the summoning circle, the Marilyn. Yeah, I mean, it's gotta hurt when and we know for, Gwentatown did not ban the Arrakis Queen, presumably partly out of confidence that he could handle it with the text that he had, and yeah, it's gotta hurt. It's gotta hurt.
But he is known for getting Consume into a bit of trouble. If they find a long round, they are actually able to keep up with Consume and the massive amount of points they are able.
Exactly, and so we see
Sometimes
here.
Osra is the card you're looking for in this matchup to eat that big greatsword.
Exactly, and here we also have Gwentatown making a pass here, Edroba calculating how much of these greatswords going to boost themselves by. I mean, really, here he needs to find something in the range of 23, 24 points. I think it might be even more in order to take this round, and I guess he's just doing the calculations himself. I'm guessing he might even have to eat a necker here to get ahead.
It's always scary because you never know how big that necker is that you are going to pull out. And
oh, it's not nearly enough.
which is pretty rough for him.
It is pretty rough. So here we do the Phoenix, and it's going to pull another Vran if I'm not mistaken. It's Lizard into Vran, I guess. And here we go. Oh! He's wondering if he needs it, if he needs the extra. I would think he does, though.
Whether he has to be greedy or not. He of course doesn't want to throw away any of his future points right now, but he also really needs to take the round within this card.
Yes, he does. Going 2 cards down in consume, of course, can be done. Going 3 down is something else. But it looks like he does just make it. Boost on the other side, and he does take the round by 1. So I'm guessing that long pause we just had there was the brain ticking. That was the calculator at work there.
You definitely want to check things twice, even thrice sometimes, because you don't want to fuck up when you're playing a tournament and more than one person is watching you.
Absolutely. More than one person. And he goes. He goes for the pass. And we are having a few people. I'm just saying that they're having this game. We will actually do a reset of the stream just to kind of clean it up and hopefully get it going again. Obviously, we've had a few problems tonight, but I hope you guys will bear with us until the end of this game at least and adjust it as needed. So we see here he's electing to mulligan away the Vran Warrior. And he pulls a Slizzard, which is, you know, not a bad card. But he doesn't find the Brewess Ritual, which is really usually what you're after.
Bow
here.
before modern Freya.
Gwent to town is immediately starting to get on his great swords once again, trying to find his boat next, getting the engines going.
That's right. I mean, both sides now are really only left with what we like to call solitaire kind of material. So right now it's just a matter of who can generate more power on this side of the board. We're probably not going to be seeing a lot of interference with each other's board at this point.
And Edroba's neckers aren't as big as should.
No, they're not.
The game.
I mean, that is the thing that
Sailed
Gwent
into
to
trouble,
Town's
water is made.
measures did achieve in the first round. He might have been blocked a little bit in that Edroba had all the answers to respond to his blocks and to his with tech. However, Gwent to Town did manage to delay those boosts on the Necker. Of course, ideally, if your first Necker can stick, then all of the consume units that you use throughout the game are continuing to boost it, and because of all that teching, unteching, summoning circle, decoy, all this kind of stuff, a lot of those boosts were denied for Edroba.
Yeah, every turn you're not getting that Fran online, you're not making. And he did waste a lot of turns on getting those neckers actually out there.
That's right. He has 4 neckers left in his deck, now 3. So we are seeing him already start to cycle, which makes sense because, you know, he doesn't really, I don't even know if he's going to get through all of those. He can go through all of them, but whether it'll be enough at this point with the neckers at the level they're at is another question.
Gwent to Town still has some very good plays in the restore and lead to a massive amount of points.
Absolutely.
Told you it'd be worth it.
Does restore the Pirate Captain Classic, if I'm not mistaken. Pirate Captain into Corsair. And we've got to assume that's a ship. Bring it out. There it is. Massive point swing. Very nice. And we're going to see here the Barbagazi to eat the other Necker. Bring the third to last, and then we've got 2 more. One will be coming from the Fran itself, and then one from the Rakus. Presumably. Vesemir.
This is the point where you can see consume
Not much left
take over.
of that world.
There's Blackblood, which is an interesting choice. We don't often see Blackblood in a greatsword deck. What do you think about that, Dutchboy?
I think Black Blood is the new runestone basically. Since runestone has been changed to also getting bronze cards into the pool, it isn't as good anymore to play with your Vesemir as a secondary card. So people started to play some more Black Bloods, which that go or that Ostra, which is most of the time solid points on either a spy or just a big unit. You can always eat your own greatswords after all.
Also.
Modern
And
Freya
here
is
comes
patient.
one that
No
will
insult.
be enough, if I'm not mistaken. Oh wait, yes it is. It is enough, and Gwent to Town takes that round. All right, folks, we've heard you loud and clear. We know there's some lag. You guys can just bear with us for a moment. We're going to restart the stream. So I'm going to actually just restart everything, and then we'll be back with you in about I would say a maximum of 5 minutes. So please do bear with us. Please have some patience. Keep each other entertained. Why don't you play a game of 20 questions, or you could play a game of I Spy. That could be fun. And in the meantime, we're going to go restart this stream and hopefully bring something back to you that is a little clearer. So we'll be with you real soon. See you shortly.